A car full of entitled Karens lose their collective minds when I take a parking spot that they apparently wanted. Things ended up getting so bad that I was worried they were going to damage my property once they pulled up really close and started swearing at me. And I've honestly never met anybody this insane in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so my friends and I got together today and decided to grab a coffee in the downtown area around one of my friend's apartment. It was pretty busy today because a nearby college had graduation earlier in the day, and everyone was either trying to get lunch or was just wanting to walk around in their regalia, which I honestly had no problem with. We were trying to find a parking spot. I mean, any spot would suffice with this traffic. And as we were rounding the corner near a public lot, we saw someone parked at the curb starting to pull out. So we stopped, we waited for them to leave, and then slowly started to pull in. The exit to the parking lot was right there, and the traffic going the other direction was really busy. So my friend who was driving definitely did not want to hit anyone or cause an accident. And this is where we may have messed up. Someone who was coming out of the parking lot had their turn signal on, but they didn't cut their wheel or angle their car towards the spot we were getting. They weren't even actually out of the lot or even in the curb cut. There was no indication that they had intent to park there except for their turn signal, which, by the way, when turning into oncoming traffic, only meant that they were turning. So in lieu of any indication that they were going for the spot, my friend slowly pulled forward. Immediately, the driver starts honking the horn, and both he and the woman in the passenger seat start flicking their arms towards the spot. Now, we were already halfway into the spot with people behind us in traffic, so we parked really quickly just to let them pass. Well, this driver immediately pulled up next to us in the middle of a busy street, and the entire car rolled down their windows to scream at us. They were so close that we could hear them shouting, even though our windows were closed. Now, I didn't think to record on my phone until the backseat passenger flipped us off, and then she stuck her arm out the window just to really emphasize that yes, she was flipping us off, as if we couldn't see it already. Now, I was more worried that she was reaching towards my friend's car so that she could try to throw something at it or try to hit the windows in general. They made a mimicking crying noise, which really made no sense because we were just sitting there staring at them in utter confusion. And as we did that, they just kept flipping us off and shouting at us until they drove away. Now, here's the best part. The backseat passenger tried to throw her coffee at my friend's car, but she did such an awful job of it that most of it was on the outside of their car. Barely even a tablespoon worth of coffee actually hit my friend's car. The coffee place we were going to was right next door, so we just got out and went about our day. But just to be sure, one of us did stay behind just to make sure they could film if that family decided to come back and bother us again. But thankfully and luckily they didn't. My friend thinks that they didn't come back because during the last minute when they were at our car, I was recording what they were doing. And you can see two of their faces as well as what they're actively doing very clearly. I've never had that happen to me before, and honestly, it was kind of funny to watch someone get that upset over a parking space. It wasn't even marked or metered or anything. It was just an empty parkable space, and with all things considered, I'm really glad that we got there before them, simply out of pure spite. Yeah, if they wanted that spot, they should have made it way more obvious. They're sitting there with their blinkers on and they're like, wait, we want that spot. But like, if you really wanted that spot, then you would have done more to try and like claim it. Like, I don't know, pull up and like get your car in the area or something like that. Or even have somebody step out of the car and sit there and be like, yeah, we're gonna take that spot. So if those people are mad that they didn't get that stupid parking spot, then that is literally on their shoulders and not yours. Because the way they acted was completely inappropriate, as you guys did not deserve to be treated like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my neighbors use my backyard? Because after I said no, they made a huge deal out of it and they seem very angry. And at this point, I feel really guilty and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my partner and I just got some new neighbors. They moved in about a month ago and we met them briefly. They're a couple that's around our age in their 30s, and they have a 5-year-old daughter and a dog. Now, we have a backyard fully fenced in with a privacy fence, and their yard does not. I was out front last weekend when the couple came up our driveway and started chatting. They mentioned that they were on a waiting list to get their yard fenced in, but were told that it would be a few months. They said they would really like their daughter and their dog to have a place to run around, but didn't feel comfortable with the lack of fence. And also, our neighborhood backs up to a wooded area and a creek. They then asked me if they could borrow our backyard for a few hours a day, just so they could let everybody run around worry-free. Now, admittedly, I immediately didn't like this, but I told them I would think about it. I talked to my partner, and we both agreed that this wasn't a good idea. We have 2 dogs ourselves, and they can be a tad protective of their yard. One of them also doesn't love kids, with the other one being a tad selective with other dogs. Because of this, we would have to coordinate when we could let our dogs out, and that's just not something that we want to deal with. There are just too many things that could go wrong, and on top of that, we have that good old American worry that if someone got hurt, we would get sued. The guy stopped by again on Wednesday and asked if we had given it any thought. I told him that we had discussed it, and unfortunately, it just wasn't going to work out with our dogs and their schedule, so we wouldn't be able to accommodate them. Well, when I said that, he immediately got sour and said to me, "Well, it's nice to know how neighborly you are." He then left abruptly, but I could hear him muttering under his breath. He and his wife have made a big show of snuffing us for the last couple of days. My partner said they will get over it, and while I'm not going to reconsider, I do feel kind of guilty. So am I the jerk for not letting our new neighbors use our yard? Because right now I feel really bad and I'm just not sure what to do. No, you are not the jerk, and honestly, the way he reacted is exactly what you wanted to see. Because if I'm willing to bet, this guy absolutely would have caused problems for you if his dog or his stupid kid got hurt on your property. Like, these people were basically asking to borrow your yard for several months until they get their yard fenced in, which probably might not even happen. Like, sometimes with people like this, if you give them an inch, they'll just take a mile. I could see them being like, "Oh, well, the neighbor lets us use their yard whenever we want. Let's just keep using their yard and not spend the money on a fence." So no, don't feel guilty at all, because it sounds like these people are really weird. And personally, I think your partner is completely right. Eventually, these weird people will definitely get over it. My father-in-law is always saying and doing things that are really intrusive in my life. Whether it's him inviting the entire family over to my house without my permission, or him just straight up calling me to tell me what to do. I'm honestly just so annoyed and very frustrated. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I grew up with divorced parents. And trust me, my mother nor my father and his wife were good parents. So basically, I have a lot of mommy and daddy issues. With my in-laws, I thought I found parents who cared. But in the long run, they were just the same. They went around to family members, telling them that I had a miscarriage after they told us they wouldn't tell anybody. Well, they did, and the family members called us. And this is just one of many instances where they've betrayed my trust. Another time is when my father-in-law came to our house one weekend, and he said that he fixed our bathroom. And by fixing it, he in reality took off the toilet paper holder that he broke, and decided to patch the hole that he put in the wall. Now, he didn't have paint, and the sanding was not good, and there was literally dust all over the place. So my husband and I had to step up and fix it for him. The same weekend, my father-in-law wanted to have dinner with some people that my husband went to school with, and someone asked him about our new house, and my father-in-law butted in by saying, "Yeah, the house is good. If you ever need one, just let me know. I will buy you one." And he basically made it seem like my husband and I didn't buy our own house. Another instance is when I found a kitten a few weeks ago, and for reference, we already have 2 cats, and when we called my mother-in-law to ask what we should do, she eventually helped me talk my husband into taking care of it, at least until we could find its owner. Well, thankfully, we found the owner a few hours later, but my father-in-law, being the person that he is, decides to call me a few days later and say to me that I'm not allowed to get another cat. And when he said that, I thought I was going to explode. Now, my husband and I are pregnant with our rainbow baby. And for reference, a rainbow baby is a child born to a family that has previously lost a child. And our baby shower is in a few weeks. My father-in-law called us up saying that his whole family was invited to my husband and I's new house. And this was going to be the Friday before the baby shower. And here's the thing, he didn't even ask, he just said everyone's coming along. But I said no, I can't host, I can't cook, and I definitely can't take care of 20-some people while being pregnant. And even if I could, I'd be doing it by myself because my husband was working late that night. My mother-in-law agreed with me, so I came up with a solution of them popping by for a walkthrough after they had dinner. And when I said that, my father-in-law just got mad. He acts like he owns the house and that he can do and say whatever he wants. A few days later, they sent us a text in the family group chat. They said, "Yeah, so people are staying an extra day after the baby shower so they can see your house." And this was him once again expecting me and my husband to host them. And I'm just so over this entitlement. I mean, I'm a grown woman. I don't deserve to deal with this. My husband has been great, and he completely gets it. And he is now working working with me to set boundaries and some rules, because the way he acts is truly annoying. Yeah, your father-in-law sounds like one of those parents who doesn't acknowledge that any of their kids or their spouses are like grown-up people and still acts like they're the parent over everybody else around them. Like, I can't stand people who act like that because seriously, the original poster has it right. They're married and they're a grown woman. They don't have to deal with this in the slightest. So hopefully you can set up some serious boundaries with your father-in-law because the way he's acting is truly obnoxious. My girlfriend and I can barely spend time together, all because of her very strict parents. And even though I beg my girlfriend to please do something to change this situation, she still doesn't want to argue or defy her parents, and it's now causing a lot of infighting between us because of it. And I'm now at such a loss that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my girlfriend for 4 years, and this is ever since we were both in high school. We have now completed our undergraduate degrees, and we are moving on to graduate school starting in September of this year. She comes from a very conservative family background. Her parents never dated, and they had an arranged marriage. And they are uncomfortable with her staying with me overnight or even just visiting my house. Consequently, we haven't been able to go on any trips or vacations or spend time together overnight throughout our entire relationship. Although her parents are fine with us dating like me, and we get along well, they prefer that we go out on day dates or that I visit their house under supervision in the living room. For reference, I'm 22 and my girlfriend is also 22. During our undergraduate years, we both lived in separate cities and we had our own places. She could never visit mine because her parents tracked her location, but I was able to go to her place to spend the night or to hang out, which really worked for the both of us. Now we're both living with our parents again, and she can't come to my house to spend time together or even stay the night. And this is seriously straining our relationship, since it's really hard to be intimate and close under such heavy restrictions. We can only see each other for a few hours, and it has to be outside the house or at hers with her parents present, which is a situation I find unsuitable, especially because we're adults. She doesn't want to argue with or defy her parents, and it's causing fighting between us because I'm asking her to. While we were in undergraduate school, we could only see each other once or twice a month due to conflicting schedules and the distance between us. Now that we're both living at home in the same city, I thought that we would have more time together, but it's only looking worse. Essentially, I feel like we can't spend enough time together in each other's spaces. So honestly, what should I do? It's a sensitive topic, and I've told her it's causing me a lot of issues in the relationship, but she doesn't want to upset her parents. Is it unfair of me to continue asking? I want to stay with her, but the lack of freedom that she has is extremely frustrating. What should I do? Yeah, this really seems like it falls on your girlfriend's shoulders, and it's definitely time for her to step up just so she can make her wishes known in her life. Because I think the original poster is correct. Both of them are adults in their 20s, and if they want to spend time together and spend the night at each other's places or anything like that, then they absolutely have every right to do that, even if that means it's not going to be at his girlfriend's place. Like, from the sounds of it, it seems like the original poster is more than willing to accommodate his girlfriend. So I can completely understand where the original poster is coming from, where they're like, wait, this is really causing me problems. Because where does this end? Like, seriously, are her parents going to have their thumb over her life for the rest of her life? Or will she be able to make her own decisions at some point? And also, what about when she gets married? Are they going to sit there and be like, well, you can't do that because you're our daughter and we grew up in a conservative household? Like, there really is nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. If you're religious and you grew up in that kind of household, that's totally fine. But if you're going to try and control your kids even into their 20s, like, that is super toxic, and there's just no good excuse for that. So I think, if anything, it might be time for your girlfriend to step up. Because based on what you've described, I simply don't believe that anything's gonna get done until she's the one who makes the first move. My mom is demanding that I don't go to my dad's wedding, as she claims that he's getting married to the mistress that broke up their marriage. And right now, I feel very hurt and very confused. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Ever since I can remember, my parents have had an odd relationship. They had me, their only kid, but never got married because they always had ups and downs. They were careful not to fight in front of me, but I knew they were constantly mad at each other. When I was 6 years old, I remember that my dad started sleeping in another room, and ever since, my parents barely spoke to each other, even when they were in the same room. I was little, but I knew something was off. Then, when I was 9 years old, my dad told me he was going to start sleeping in another house. He moved out, but they had a 50-50 custody arrangement, so I saw him pretty often. Then, my mom started telling me that my dad abandoned us and that I should be angry at him. Well, when I told my dad, she never said that to me ever again. I guess they agreed not to put me between their mess. Later on, I found out that when my dad changed rooms when I was 6 years old, they had broken up and remained so for almost 3 years. My dad explained to me that the relationship was bad for both of them, so he decided to end it without a chance of reconciliation. He begged her to go to therapy, but she didn't want to, so he gave up and just broke it off. But my mom asked my dad to keep living in our house and to help her co-parent, and he agreed. I asked my mom for confirmation, and she told me that it was all true. I also found out that my dad moved because he had met someone else a month before moving out, and he started dating her. And now, 10 years later, my dad and his fiance are getting married, and we get along pretty well. But here's the thing, my mom doesn't want me to go. She's very hurt about the wedding, and she's always told me that she was my dad's mistress, that even if they were broken up and nothing happened between them, he was still living with us, so technically he cheated. My dad has always told me his side of the story and let me draw my own conclusions. I honestly don't think my dad cheated because they were broken up, but I guess my mom has really old values, and for her, living in the same house means they're still in a relationship. At this point, I don't know what to do, because obviously it will destroy her if I go to their wedding, but I also want to be a part of my dad's special moment. So is my mom right? Should I stay away from this wedding in solidarity with my mom? What should I do? No, I don't think you're doing anything wrong, and I don't think you would be the jerk for showing up to this wedding. For starters, it's very important to say this, but your dad's wife is not his mistress. Your mom is painting her as a villain in their marriage, but in reality, she is just trying to manipulate the situation. She just wants to turn you against your dad and his new wife. Like, she already tried to do this when you were younger, and now that you're older, she's trying to do it again. Like, that is so obnoxious. And also, it's not gonna destroy her if you show up to the wedding. This is so inconsequential for your mom, it's not even funny. Like, it's been 10 years. Why should you be held back by your mother in having any kind of relationship with your dad and his fiance? The whole scenario is really messed up in my opinion, and if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever miss out on that wedding, because I think that your mom is being very selfish and very manipulative. My job absolutely sucks, as I have to deal with incompetent customers, as well as a boss who never pays me on time, and I'm honestly now at my wit's end, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So the customers I interact with at my food hall job are by far the most incompetent human beings I've ever had to deal with. The amount of times that they are oblivious to the most obvious and available information, as well as the processes at the shop front, are actually mind-boggling. For example, they won't see the square card reader on the register right in front of them, and when they do see it, they actually insert the card under the reader instead of in an actual slot. They also don't see the separate drink menu right next to the TV menu. They will ask non-stop questions about items on the menu when the answer is literally listed in the contents of the item in question on the menu. And then they'll try to pay with cash, only to miss the literal sign that says no cash. And these are just some of the things that the front has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it's guaranteed that you will get most, if not all, of these acts of just complete unawareness. It makes what already is an unmotivating job absolutely unbearable. And it actually fatigues you because it's mentally and physically draining. I mean, you're not even just doing your standard job, but you're also assisting intellectually inept people to do the most basic things. It's almost as if the customers don't even try to be competent and instead do the bare minimum and expect us to hold their hand the entire way. All of these things have made every employee at our business completely unmotivated and made us struggle to provide good customer service. I mean, no one smiles or is really able to even pretend to put on a customer service face because it's past the point of being reasonable. This has caused a certain number of my coworkers to get numerous bad reviews on sites like Yelp, where customers will describe the employee and say that this person was so unenthusiastic. Sorry, but if you see an unhappy worker, there's many underlying issues and your dissatisfaction isn't changing that. Also, everybody at our place never gets paid on time. We get micromanaged by a remote boss. We have to deal with some of the most toxic kitchen workers who think that they manage the place despite just being cooks. All of this piled onto the fact that our boss just doesn't care about the bad reviews, which I'm not surprised, as he's just worried about getting that fat check at all cost. If you do anything that affects the cash flow, even in just the most minute way, then they will definitely send you a 5-paragraph text on what you did wrong, which literally could have been said in one complete sentence. But honestly, the incompetence of customers is easily the most frustrating and difficult part of food service in my opinion, and it is the main reason why employees interact with less than optimal customer service. I'm not sure why your average human being seems to be incapable of doing the most basic task just to try and make food food service workers' lives easier, but without fail, it happens every single day. And sadly, everyone in the front is looking to leave as soon as possible, and some have already acquired other employment, and it really sucks to see so many awful factors that make good people lose faith in a job so much. Wow, first and foremost, I totally understand where you're coming from, where you deal with stupid customers and you have an awful boss who works remote. Trust me, I have been in your shoes and I know how frustrating that can be. They don't show up to the job you're working, and yet they have the gall to sit at home and boss you around like they know what's going on. Like, that drove me nuts at a previous job I had, and trust me, it's one of the main reasons why I quit. But also, these people are not paying you on time. Like, that's a big red flag that I would never put up with for a single second. Like, you deserve to be paid. No one should ever have to wait for their paycheck. And if that really is the standard that this place exhibits, then seriously, I would find another job, because what you're describing literally sounds soul-crushing and so miserable. And I'm positive that you can find something much better. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.